I'm not really sure where to start, or if this is even the correct place to do this, because it seems more like a bad dream than something that actually happened. It seems like something that couldn't have happened, yet most of me says that it did. Everything started yesterday. Yesterday was supposed to be the first day of my new job. Got into the building early, thanks to the lack of traffic. July the 4th and all. The building was as beautiful as the first time I'd seen it, built of red brick with white brick accents. The roof was forest green. It stuck out in between two older buildings on Prairie and Fannin in downtown Houston. The job was nothing special, just a bullshit temp job for HR for a crappy law firm. Like I said, nothing special. I made sure to dress up though, pencil skirt, new blouse, black heels. When I drove up, everything seemed fine. I parked in the section my boss had told me I wouldn't get towed from. I remembered to bring a lunch. I'm sorry, I'm avoiding getting to the point. I'm still trying to convince myself that I'm not wasting my time. Anyways, I walked into the dark lobby of the building on the ground floor. I was supposed to be there at 7 AM, but I showed up a whole 30 minutes early. I wanted to keep this job. I needed to keep this job. Got on the elevator, all nerves and excitement. After punching the button for the 3rd floor, I fixed my skirt, making sure nothing was out of place. Right before the elevator doors closed, a pale white hand slipped between them and stopped them. The door opened up and a thin woman with pale white skin walked in the elevator with me. She punched the button for the 3rd floor as well. You know how when you push an elevator button it turns white or that weird yellow? When I pushed the 3rd floor's button, it turned a yellow colour. When the gaunt woman with the high cheekbones pushed the already lit 3, it turned crimson. I'd never seen anything like that happen before in my life, but I didn't say anything. I didn't want to cause a problem. I didn't want to be that silly dumb girl that didn't know how the elevators worked. So I kept my mouth shut. You know how most people on an elevator face the front the whole ride up? The thin woman I shared the car with didn't. She faced to the side. She faced me. I glanced over at her because I thought she was staring at me. She wasn't. She stares directly above my head, still, unmoving. It was then that I noticed something I should have noticed when she first entered. The woman wore a black suit, and from the sleeves of the suit and collar of the shirt, black, purple and red tattoos could just be seen. I imagined that the woman was covered head to foot in tattoos except for where her skin showed. I couldn't make out what any of the tattoos were, though. She stared above my head the entire ride up to the 3rd floor. Looking back, it took far longer to get to that floor than it should have. When we arrived, instead of a high-pitched, cheap-sounding ding, we were greeted with several low bells that chimed at the same time, making a weird sort of sound that made my teeth hurt. I smiled at the woman, nodding and gesturing that she should go ahead. She didn't move, continuing to stare at the spot above my head. The doors started closing and still the woman hadn't moved. I stuck my hand out to stop the doors and got off at my floor. It was like walking into a meat freezer. Chill bumps broke out all over my skin and my teeth started chattering and aching even more. Cold air burnt my eyes. I glanced behind me to see if the strange woman was following me, and only just saw her through the door of the closing elevator. She was facing me, staring at me. Her head was cocked to the side, and when I say to the side, I mean her right ear was completely flat against her right shoulder. When we made eye contact, her lips stretched into a smile. Right before the door closed, she clicked her teeth twice. I shook my head then, thinking it was some sort of joke. Maybe this law firm hazed the new employees. It didn't seem likely, and I turned away from the elevator. The lights were still off in the office, but I could hear keyboards clacking, telephones ringing, and people talking. I started walking towards HR, wondering why no one had turned on the lights. The emergency lights were on, but how could anyone work in those conditions? When I got to my new department, I went directly to my desk. I wanted to set up all my stuff before I started training. I frowned when I saw my desk. Both when I was interviewed and when I returned to accept the position, the cubicle had been empty. But now, balled up on my desk, was a Kelly green burlap sack with several tears in the fabric. All hazing?
You work tomorrow, right?
I shook my head and put the sack onto one of my new drawers. The sack felt warm in my hands. I shook this off too. All hazing. Confession. I'm one of those girls who likes her stuff where it belongs. I love fluorescent post-it notes and brightly coloured paper clips. To-do lists? Check. Highlighters? Double check. I set to fixing up my desk in the way I wanted it. I was so intent on getting everything ready, I'm not sure how long the office had been silent before I noticed. No more telephones. No more voices. No more keys being pressed. I quit moving, feeling like I was under a spotlight. I licked my lips and tasted blood. My lips had gone from perfectly fine to chapped and bloody in 10 minutes. I also noticed that my teeth weren't just aching, they were throbbing. Then the lights started to come up, starting from the far end of the office and working their way towards me in large chunks. HR's were the last to light up. When they did, I still hadn't moved. I could taste blood in my mouth. I shook my head, feeling silly about how scared I was, and stood up. Everyone else in the office was already standing in their cubicles staring at me. At least, I think they were staring at me. I couldn't see their faces, because every single one of them wore a burlap scarecrow mask. Every single person. The masks were all different shade of the rainbow, but the eyes and mouth on every mask were pitch black. Stood there in shock for another second before my legs started moving. It was strange. My legs were running, but I just seemed to be along for the ride. As I ran by all the cubicles, the scarecrow head swivelled along with me. I saw that not every person stood. Some of them pressed telephones against the thick material of their masks. Others slammed their faces against the keyboard over and over. Others laid on the ground, arms crossed over their bellies like they were sleeping. I caught the occasional snatch of conversation as my legs powered me towards the stairs.
Remodelling has been scheduled. The dentist will arrive shortly. Samantha and I will meet Mr. Shred.
A glowing sign in between the elevators blinked on. It read, Boothworld Industries. And below that, smaller sign read, Established 1888, Whitechapel, London. I was on the 3rd floor, but not the same 3rd floor where I'd been interviewed the day before. I hit the stairs running and didn't stop until I was in my car, driving away. I was shaking so badly that I had to pull to the side of the road for a little to settle down. When I got home, I took a shower to relax. Toweling off, I realised I was covered in black and red marks. I can't even begin to understand. Sometime during the night, I lost a tooth. My lips are still bleeding. My eyes are still blood red. What's stranger is that I can feel a yearning to return to that red stone green roof building and hit the 3rd floor button twice. Sit back down at my desk and pull that burlap mask over my head. Kelly green's always been my favourite colour. And those marks? They cover the surface of my skin. Everywhere I was covered by clothing in the office. If I was still wearing what I wore yesterday, the marks would just barely be poking out from my collar, sleeves and the hem of my skirt. Just like that woman on the elevator. I'm sitting here shaking my head as I look at one of those really bad ones on my right arm. It's a bruise, but a very specific type of bruise. It's a bite mark. I'm covered in human bite marks and they're growing darker by the minute. I think that's all the resume I'll need for tomorrow.
My first day at Boothworld Industries.